Another video on setting up EQMod via cart to Ciel to control the mount. I've had a little bit of trouble working out which bits of software you need to get running in which order. Sometimes it connects, sometimes it doesn't. I've now figured that if it's connected up correctly, you just load up cart to Ciel, go to telescope, control panel, and hit connect. And away it goes. So there's no need to go into the toolbox or EQMod or anything else. If it's set up properly, then cart to Ciel will tell EQMod to get going. You can hide the telescope interface window after a bit, but notice that is set to EQMod telescope. So you're selecting which one as a driver. That's which telescope it is. That's the one that it goes happily with. So I can now put hide. I notice that's gone. Oh, there we go. I thought it had gone black for some horrible reason, but it seems to be green now anyway. So hide, and I can move that one over to there. So we look at this, and it is parked, obviously because we're switching on from scratch. So unpark. So far so good. Now I don't think the mount is tracking because it says a track rate not tracking. So if I go to, you've got, can't quite see, I think there's a toolbox there for custom things. You've got tracking the sun, tracking the moon, or tracking the stars. So if I click on tracking stars, then it changes from not tracking to sidereal, which is correct. Anyway, there we go. That's going quite nicely. So if I open this up a little bit larger, and let's see if we can just immediately go to a slew. So it's if we were to move to Alrai, there, click on Alrai and hit go to. There's a reassuring sound of the mount slewing. And we can see the little point, the little circle. It seems much bigger than it was yesterday. I haven't done that myself. It's maybe just because I'm doing a larger view. You can set these up to replicate the field of view. If you've got a camera with a certain size CCD chip, you can turn this into a square and orient it so that it gives you a good representation of what you're going to get in your picture. But there we go, we've got Alrai, and it's going quite nicely. So expand this window out. It goes to areas which we don't really need to worry about. Some EQ6s you can dim the polar scope light. If it's too bright, you can, for doing a polar alignment, you can move this up and down. I don't know if this mount will do it. A few settings, other settings. There's for a gamepad, which would be used for using joysticks to move the mouse around rather than the north, south, east, west buttons here. So if you've got anyone expert on playing games, they probably get there very quickly. And the thing I want to look at today is the alignment sync, as in doing a 3-star alignment or a 2-star alignment. With EQMod you can do a 50-star or a 100-star. It depends on how much time you've got on your hands. There are two ways of doing it. One is to have append on sync selected, and one is a dialogue based one. Now I think the sync had a recommendation that this is the preferred one, to append on sync. So the way that would work is we can shrink this down so we can only just see what we need to see there. We would then go to the north, south, east and west. I'll move this the speed of the slew up to the 800, which would be a bit excessive, but it'll make a noise so we can hear it. There we go. So pretending now that we're adjusting the positions of the star until it is absolutely spot on, you can see there I faked it so that I moved it a little bit off. So a polar alignment could have been a bit wrong, or we might not have parked it properly, who knows. But you would then go up to, now let's, before we do that, look at this bit here. It says point count, nothing, 0. So if I go up to this button, I think it's probably under telescope sync. Yep, there it is over there, but that's the icon. If we go up to there and just hit that, it will say, confirm that you're pointing at Alrai. So we make sure that we've got the right star. It's nearly always quite easy to figure it out because you choose bright stars, and a bright star, Alrai seems to be magnitude 3.2. That would be very, very bright on, I say, 2 or 3 second exposure. There's no chance you'd be mistaken by one of these other little ones around here. So we then say yes, and we notice tiny little writing here. You may not see that so easily. It says 1, point count 1. Now if I then go to this icon, we have a very exciting feature which I can expand a little bit. There we go. This is a map of the sky. It has got, I always like having south at the bottom, but this is, for our location, this is Polaris there. And we have a little dot there, which I'm a bit puzzled that I don't think that's Alrai. I would think probably that's Alrai. So what that one is there at the moment, I don't know. But there we go, we've got Alrai. Here we've got number 1, time it was taken, what its right ascension is, its declination, the offset, that's obviously how much we've clicked the north, west, south, east buttons, but it has now remembered what that star is. So we've done a 1-star alignment. Now I shall go to, if I just click the cursor button to move over to, we've got to activate that window. Click the cursor button. There we go. I'm going to go over to Alfurk. I didn't know there was a star called Alfurk, but there is. There we go. And we say slew. Now you can see that the little circle pointer is wandering around and has decided to alight there. So again, we pretend, wait for a second until absolutely certain that the mount has stopped moving about, and then pretend that we are adjusting the position until it's spot on, and then up to sync. Now I'm guessing that the confirm thing is hiding behind there. Yes, there it is. So confirm that we're looking at Alpha, yes. And so far so good. So I think we have to move this a bit smaller. It's nice to see what you're doing, but it's taking up so much of the space on the screen here. So we've done Alrai. Let's have a look at this one down here. Let's put that one in. And slew. Pretend, adjustment, sync, yes. Okay, right, now that first little red dot that was there has disappeared, because I think that was a fake. I don't think that had anything to do with what we're doing, because we're in this area down here. I can't magnify this up. Oh, no, that's probably a little bit too much. It's too big. I will do this. Okay, so there's the pole star. We moved to the first star, which was, what was that, Alfurk or something. Then this one. Now we've moved to that one. So we've made a little triangle, and this is Iota Cepheus or something like that. WW, south W, pretend, and sync. Okay, now I've got a feeling I've already done that, but I'm getting a little bit confused with all these windows on the screen. So I'll now decide that I can't see what's going on, so I'm going to shrink this down and we can then move somewhere quite a bit further. So I'll now go to that star and let's slew to that. Now the trick with this is to avoid hitting the wrong one. Quite often you go up here and you want to hit that, and before you know it you clicked the sync, which is going to mess things up, but it's not the end of the world. You can delete a star. So I think we're doing a meridian slew. It's gone all the way around. It's coming in from this position. Yep, so we're now there, and I can pretend, click, 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 sync. Yes. And so far so good. Right, so how many stars have we done? We've done 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Not quite sure why it only looks like we've got that many. But now we would be able to say, right, if I'm going to take pictures in this area, normally if you're going to do a big file, pointing file, you choose a star, lots and lots, build it up to here. So now if we were to look for something that was between those stars, so let's just see. Whoa. So look for something that was between those stars. So let's have a look here. Let's go and look at that one. So let's slew to that. Right. And then I'm going to go to this one. This is the Cassiopeia that we're in. I'm waiting to hear the sound of the mount. Stopping, yeah. East, east, and the north. Oh, see, I nearly did it then. I pointed at the wrong one. That one there. If I was designing Carte du Ciel, I would put those separate with harmless things in between. But then, who am I to decide these things? Right, we've now got how many points? 7 points. Now, let's choose one, a random star, this little chap here. Now, let's just go and look at that. Now we see that for an instant it drew, there we go, it's doing it again, it drew a little triangle. Now the best and most accurate pointing is if you have a pointing model of stars, you'll get accurate results if you're looking for something that's in one of these triangles. If the EQMod can find a nice triangle, then clearly it will know what the errors are in location. If we look to say, well, I think you should be pointing here, the mount says you're pointing there, but it will try and make a little bit of a correction, which accounts for why that tiny circle is not in the dead center of the big circle. The one is that the mount is pointing, I think, in, or you told it to go to one of those circles, and the mount is saying, yes, but it's not quite right, I'm going to move it over to there. So perhaps the big circle is where the star is on the catalogue in the planetarium software, and the little circle is the mount saying, oh, I know better now, I'm going to shift it off a little bit to be dead center. If you choose to do a star which is, you want to go and look at a star which is nowhere near a triangle, which lets us think if we went probably up to, let's go over there, choose that one, HD 223274. Oh, big circle, another circle, what am I saying? Oh, yeah, right, we've gone over the, I should have noticed, down the bottom here it says 0 hours, 0 minutes, so I've crossed over the meridian again, so we have to just wait until it figures out where it's going. And we've ended up in another triangle, so I was trying to be more right. I'll definitely go somewhere where there is no, right down in the corner here, into Andromeda, Slew. So you now go outside. Now when you're outside a triangle, the program looks at a nearby star, so it thinks that's the nearest star. That one looks closer, but of course it's in the other hemisphere. So that's the last one it knew what was going on. So it will do now just a 1-star alignment with that star there. So that's not as accurate. So if I was imaging something in this direction, I would choose a star there and sync on that, and choose a star there and sync on that. So let's just go clickety click, sync, and away we go. Now here we've got the list of stars. I put the date here, March the 2nd. I was doing one earlier this morning, so we're going to call this March the 2nd A, and we can save it, so that when you next want to use the mount, you don't have to do the whole thing all over again, which obviously is one of the really main advantages of doing things this way, because doing a 2 or 3 star alignment every time you want to do some astronomy with the SynScan handset becomes very tedious. Now you might need to remember to reload this. If we click on that little button there, it says load. I have clicked it and absolutely nothing is happening. I'm sorry, we have forgotten to do our latest thing there, so click. Maybe that's what was causing the delay. No, nothing coming up here. So if I wanted to load a new one, well, maybe it's refusing to load because we've already got. If we decided that we've changed the position of the telescope on the mount, or we put a different telescope on the mount, you can clear these things out. So clear align data and clear sync data. So if I go click on that one, I notice those have all disappeared, and click on that one, those have all disappeared. So if I was, imagine if that was completely, if that was empty, with absolutely nothing there, and if you went like that, there we go, it's opened it, it's found it all by itself, which is quite clever. Don't quite know how it did that, but this here would be a list. You'd have, clicking there, you'd find a list of all the ones that you've got. So it looks like the only ones it knows about is March the 2nd, which is a puzzle because I did do one yesterday. I'm not quite sure where that's gone, but certainly before you start the evening, it's a good idea to make sure that you then hit that and it loads it. That might be the sequence, that if you've done several, don't hit that one first, hit that one first, choose the one that you want, and yes, then if you hit that, it'll open empty. Oh, it's been clever now. It says, no, you haven't got anything in there. Don't be stupid. Okay. EQMod 1 and me 0. So there we go. That would be by far the best way of doing things. I think that will just close that down there, and then close that down there, and then for the rest of the session you would just choose things that you wanted to look at. Pick a little star or a galaxy or nebula, up to slew, off it goes. And I keep choosing ones that need a meridian slew, that go sailing past Polaris. It would be nice if you could tell it to keep south at the bottom or keep north at the bottom always. You can rotate the whole display by clicking one of these rotate things here, but if I go smaller, click that one, make it go smaller, we can see that you can now get a very weird picture, because it's putting the entire sky onto a two-dimensional surface here, which is really more confusing than my brain can cope. So yeah, there we go. That'd be possibly about a sensible kind of field of view. Moving, I'm hitting the cursor keys on the keyboard to go from one place to another. So there we are. If we wanted to look at M31, M32 is a little companion galaxy there. Away we go. So there we are. Now of course we remember, when you've finished, park. If you forgot to park the telescope and then switch everything off and then come back tomorrow, then you're going to have lost everything. You could move the telescope back to the park position and hope that you get it in the right place, but not so easy. So there we go. We're almost back home. Unpark, park. We've got that in position. So I can now telescope, control panel, disconnect. Okay, it is red. The EQMod window has disappeared all by itself. We check, if we hit connect, will it come back automatically? Yes, it does, and it goes green. So disconnect works quite happily. I have set the latitude and longitude to be the same in both Carte du Ciel and EQMod, and the coordinate system I've changed it to be J2000 in both, which will avoid confusion, I hope. But all that's left to do now is to shut it down and go and have a cup of tea. If I've changed any program settings in Carte du Ciel, configuration, or setting a different epoch or something like that, you would save it. But I haven't, I don't think. But I might have, so let's just click yes now. There's no harm in that. If we're happy with the way it was, away we go.